Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with spaghetti al tonno. That's right, we are using the Italian words this time because it just doesn't seem appropriate to call something this beautiful, this easy, and this delicious tuna spaghetti. I mean, that sounds like a password you need to get into somebody's treehouse. All right, so we're going to go with the slightly more poetic spaghetti al tonno. And before we start, let's just briefly talk tuna. The one I want you to use for this is the way more expensive olive oil packed tuna. It's just a much better product for this pasta than those cans of water packed tuna you grew up on. And not only is the tuna going to be a better quality and work better in this recipe, you also get free olive oil with it, which you can certainly use at the beginning of this recipe, although, to be honest, I'm going to save that to dress a potato salad tomorrow. Ooh, that's going to be good. But anyway, I want you to use the nice tuna. And now that we've covered that, it's on to the recipe. So to start this, we're going to put a pan on medium heat, into which we're going to drizzle a good amount of olive oil. All right, a couple tablespoons. It's part of the sauce. And then into that, we're going to drop one anchovy fillet, also known as Italian MSG, along with a big spoon of drained capers. And I'm going to cook that for a minute or two, basically until that anchovy kind of breaks down and disappears into the oil. And besides disappearing the anchovy, the other thing that's happening here is we're giving those capers a little saute. It's going to sort of concentrate that briny flavor a little bit, which is going to create a very flavorful foundation for the rest of the sauce. So like I said, we're going to saute that on medium for about 2 minutes. And then we're going to add some finely minced garlic and stir that in, and don't walk away. We don't want to brown this. We don't want to color this. We just want to sizzle this for about 1 minute. And what'll happen if you walk away? You'll get distracted and it will burn. And you'll have to start over. Or even worse, you won't start over. You'll just keep going and it won't be any good. So be careful with the garlic. Like I said, just about a minute. And at that point, we're going to splash in some white wine. About a half a cup. And you know, we always want to use a drinkable wine when we cook. And at this point, we can crank the heat up to medium-high because we want to reduce this by about 75%. All right, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and season this up a little bit. And I'm going to go with some hot red chili flakes, a good amount. This is supposed to be a little spicy. And also a pinch of dry oregano. So we'll stir that in. And then, like I said, we're going to keep reducing this down until basically you have about 25% left of what you started with, which should look something like this. All right? And at that point, we're going to go ahead and dump in our tomato product. And I'm using San Marzano crushed tomatoes. And the good news here is you can use pretty much any tomato product. I've done this with tomato sauce, tomato puree, fresh tomato concasse. Pretty much anything's going to work. Like most pasta recipes, I really don't make this the same way twice. But anyway, we're going to stir in those tomatoes. And by the way, this is the perfect point to remind you, as you're making the sauce, make sure you also get your pasta water ready. Do not make the rookie mistake of having your sauce done, and then you got to wait for your pasta water to boil. So let's have that happen simultaneously. But anyway, we're going to stir in our tomatoes. We're going to bring that back up to a simmer. And while it does, let's go ahead and season it up a little more with some freshly ground black pepper, a little pinch of salt, and maybe a little pinch of cayenne. And we'll stir that in. And then all I want you to do before we add our tuna is let this simmer for about 10 minutes. All right, this is a very quick sauce, but I do like to let it simmer a little bit before we add our tuna. All right, so let it simmer on medium for about 10 minutes. And then we can go ahead and dump in our tuna. And simply break it up with your spoon. I like to go very, very small. I think you're going to get better spaghetti coverage. Other people just barely break it up. They like bigger chunks. So which way would you like better? I have no way of knowing. But I am going to officially recommend you break that up as small as possible. And then last but not least, we're going to go ahead and throw in a handful of freshly chopped Italian parsley. So we'll stir that parsley in. And then here's the plan. All we're going to do is lower that heat to medium-low. And we'll just let that sit there on medium-low for the 10 minutes it takes to cook the pasta, which is the next step. So I'm going to go ahead and boil some nice fat spaghetti in salted water. And as usual, we're going to cook this about a minute under how we normally would cook it because we want to finish this with that hot sauce. So we're going to slightly undercook that. And then we're going to go ahead and drain it. And don't let it sit there too long. As soon as you dump it in, I want you to transfer that right back into the pot. All right, I don't want that pasta getting all dry and sticky. And then we're going to immediately pour over our hot sauce. We'll give that a thorough mixing. And then what we'll do is we'll simply cover this for about 3 minutes. And thanks to the residual heat in that pasta and sauce, the spaghetti is going to finish cooking perfectly. And you know, if you watch other pasta videos here, we never just dump sauce on top of naked pasta. That's simply barbaric. So this is the way to go if you want your pasta to absorb extra flavor from the sauce. So we're going to mix that thoroughly. We're going to pop on the lid. And we're just going to let it sit like that covered for about 3 minutes. And at that point, you're ready to serve. Into a warm bowl, please. And then if you want to be just like your old buddy Chef John, you're going to finish this with some extra virgin olive oil. Yes, that's what we save the good stuff for. And then possibly a little extra parsley. And we'll finish with a little light dusting of parm. And that spaghetti al tonno is finito. And as my family back in Italy might say, that is a nice looking pasta. Although they say it in Italian and it sounds much more impressive. But forget about looks. The taste is spectacular. It's a light sauce, yet very, very satisfying. Surprisingly meaty. In fact, if you like meat sauces and you wouldn't make this because it's a fish-based sauce, you need to reconsider your whole belief system. So maybe this isn't what you think of as traditional comfort food, but that's exactly what this is. And you'll be happy to know I enjoy this at least once a week, okay? So I really do hope you give it a try. Head over to foodwishes.com for all the ingredient amounts and more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.